For my family, I was the disappointment who never helped anyone, while my sister was the golden child who sacrificed everything for our parents. At a celebration dinner, tired of being belittled, I made a sarcastic comment about letting her cover their expenses from now on. Their confused response changed everything. What expenses? You never help us financially. That's when I realized the horrible truth about where her generosity really came from. Before we dive into this family drama, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe for more incredible stories every day. Now let's head back to that devastating dinner table. The phone call from my mother came on a Tuesday evening, just as I was finishing up the monthly reports at my accounting firm. Her voice had that particular tone she reserved for discussions about my sister Sarah, a mixture of pride and barely concealed disappointment that I wasn't more like her. "Marcus, honey," she began, and I could already feel my shoulders tensing. "I just wanted to let you know that Sarah got another promotion at her law firm. Senior partner now, can you believe it? She's taking us out to celebrate this weekend at that fancy steakhouse downtown. You should come, though I know you're probably busy with whatever it is you do." Whatever it is I do? I was a certified public accountant with my own successful practice, but in my mother's eyes, I might as well have been unemployed. Sarah was the golden child, the Harvard Law graduate with the corner office, the designer suits, and the social media presence that made our parents beam with pride at every family gathering. "I'll be there, Mom," I said, already dreading it. "Oh, and Marcus," she added, her voice softening slightly, "maybe try to dress nicely. You know how Sarah's colleagues might be there, and first impressions matter." I hung up the phone and looked around my modest but comfortable apartment. It wasn't the penthouse condo that Sarah owned, but it was mine, paid for with money I had earned through years of careful work and honest dealing. Not that anyone in my family seemed to notice or care. What they also didn't seem to acknowledge was the substantial monthly support I had been providing them for the past 3 years. $8,000 a month, transferred directly to Sarah's account, money that I knew was going toward their mortgage payments, Dad's heart medication, Mom's physical therapy, and the mounting medical bills from Dad's surgery. The arrangement had started 3 years ago when Dad had his heart attack. Sarah had called me in a panic, explaining that the medical bills were overwhelming, and our parents were facing foreclosure. She had said, "We need to help them. I can contribute some, but I need you to help me too. Can you send me your part each month and I'll make sure they get everything they need?" It had made sense at the time. Sarah lived closer to our parents and handled their finances anyway. I was happy to contribute. More than happy, actually. Taking care of the people who raised me felt like the right thing to do, even if it meant living more modestly than I could have otherwise. What I didn't understand was why my parents never seemed to acknowledge my contribution. Every family gathering was filled with praise for Sarah's generosity, her sacrifice, her devotion to family. Meanwhile, I was treated like the selfish son who was too focused on his own life to help with family responsibilities. I had assumed they were just being discreet about the financial arrangements, or perhaps they were embarrassed about needing help and didn't want to make a big deal about it. But as the months turned into years, and the praise for Sarah's generosity grew more effusive while I remained invisible, I began to wonder if something else was going on. The celebration dinner was held at Morton's, the kind of place where the steaks cost more than most people spend on groceries in a week. Sarah had reserved a private dining room, and when I arrived, I found her holding court at the head of the table, regaling our parents and a few of her law firm colleagues with stories of her latest legal victories. She looked every inch the successful attorney. Perfectly styled blonde hair, a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and jewelry that caught the light every time she gestured. Our parents sat on either side of her like proud courtiers, hanging on her every word. "Marcus," my father called out when he saw me, "come meet Sarah's colleagues. This is my son, the accountant." The way he said accountant made it sound like I'd cleaned septic tanks for a living. I shook hands with the lawyers, endured their polite but dismissive small talk, and took my seat at the far end of the table, as far from the center of attention as possible. The dinner proceeded exactly as I had expected. Sarah talked about her cases, her clients, her recent vacation to the Hamptons. Our parents beamed and asked follow-up questions, clearly thrilled to be associated with such success. When the conversation occasionally turned to me, it was with the kind of patronizing interest you might show a child's finger painting. "Marcus has his own little accounting practice," my mother explained to one of Sarah's colleagues. "It's very stable." Stable. The word hung in the air like a judgment. Not exciting, not impressive, not worthy of celebration. Just stable. It was during dessert that the conversation took the turn that would change everything. "You know," my mother said, reaching over to squeeze Sarah's hand, "we are just so grateful for everything you do for us. I don't know what we would have done these past few years without your help." "Oh, Mom," Sarah said with a modest smile, "it's nothing. Family takes care of family." "Nothing?" my father interjected. "Sarah, you've been covering our medical bills, helping with the mortgage, making sure we can stay in our house. $8,000 a month, every month for 3 years. That's not nothing. That's everything." I nearly choked on my wine. $8,000 a month. The exact amount I had been sending to Sarah. The exact amount that was supposed to be my contribution to their care. "Really," Sarah continued, basking in their gratitude, "it's my pleasure. I know how hard things have been since Dad's heart surgery, and I'm just glad I'm in a position to help." One of her colleagues, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, leaned forward with interest. $8,000 a month? That's incredibly generous, Sarah. Not many people would take on that kind of financial responsibility for their parents." "Well," Sarah said with a self-deprecating laugh, "I've been blessed with success, and I believe in sharing that blessing with the people I love." I stared at her across the table, my mind reeling. She was talking as if she was single-handedly supporting our parents. $8,000 a month, my $8,000 a month, and she was taking complete credit for it. "Sarah's always been the responsible one," my mother added, shooting a quick glance in my direction. "Some children just have that natural instinct to take care of their family." The implication was clear. Some children, like Sarah, were naturally generous and responsible. Others, like me, were not. I felt my face burning with a mixture of anger and humiliation. I had been supporting my parents for 3 years, and not only was I getting no credit for it, but my generosity was being used as evidence of my sister's superiority. "That's really something," I said, my voice carefully controlled. $8,000 a month. That must be quite a sacrifice." Sarah's eyes flicked to mine for just a moment, and I saw a flash of something. Warning? Fear? Before she smiled again. "It's worth it. Family's everything." "Absolutely," I agreed, setting down my fork. "Family should definitely take care of family. In fact, since you're doing such an amazing job supporting Mom and Dad, and since you are obviously so much more successful and generous than I am, maybe you should handle all of their expenses going forward." The table went quiet. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. "What do you mean?" my mother asked. "I mean," I said, looking directly at Sarah, "that since my sister is clearly the generous, successful one in the family, she shouldn't need my monthly contributions anymore. She can cover everything herself." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as the color drained from Sarah's face. "Monthly contributions," my father repeated slowly. "Marcus, what are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, scrolling to the transfer history. "I'm talking about the $8,000 I send to Sarah every month, the money I've been contributing for the past 3 years to help with your medical bills and mortgage." My mother's face went blank with confusion. "You send money to Sarah?" "Every month," I confirmed, turning the phone so they could see the screen. Transfer after transfer, $8,000 with a note that says for Mom and Dad's expenses. The same $8,000 you just thanked Sarah for providing. The silence stretched on as my parents processed this information. Sarah sat frozen in her chair, her face now completely pale. "Sarah," my father said quietly, his voice dangerous, "is this true?" Sarah opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Around the table, her law firm colleagues were watching with the fascinated horror of people witnessing a car accident. I can explain," Sarah finally managed. "Please do," I said, my voice steady, despite the rage building in my chest. "Please explain to Mom and Dad how you've been taking credit for money I've been sending. Please explain how you've been letting them think you're this incredibly generous daughter, while I'm the selfish son who never helps with anything." "It's not like that," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then what is it like?" my mother demanded, her voice sharp with a tone I had never heard her use with Sarah before. Sarah looked around the table desperately, as if searching for an escape route. Marcus wanted to help, but he asked me to handle the logistics. It was easier to have everything come from one account." "That's not what happened," I said calmly. "You told me you would add my contribution to yours and handle the payments. You never mentioned that you were going to tell Mom and Dad that all $8,000 was coming from you." "I never said it was all mine," Sarah protested weakly. "Really?" I said. "Because Mom and Dad just spent 10 minutes praising your incredible generosity for providing $8,000 a month. They seem to think every penny is coming from you." My father was staring at Sarah as if he had never seen her before. "Sarah, you told us you were covering all our expenses. You never mentioned that Marcus was helping." "I was going to tell you," she said, tears starting to form in her eyes. I didn't want to complicate things." "Complicate things?" My mother's voice was rising. "You let us believe that Marcus never helped us. You let us think he didn't care about our struggles while you were playing the hero with his money." The lawyers at the table were now openly staring, their professional composure cracking in the face of this family drama. Patricia, the colleague who had praised Sarah's generosity, was looking at her with undisguised disgust. "Wait," my father said slowly, his accountant's mind working through the numbers. "If Marcus has been sending $8,000 a month, and you told us you were providing $8,000 a month, where was your contribution?" Sarah's silence was answer enough. "Oh my God," my mother whispered. "Sarah, have you been contributing anything at all?" I helped with smaller things," she stammered. "I bought groceries sometimes, and I paid for Dad's prescription that one time." "Prescription?" I said. "You mean the one I sent you an extra $1,000 to cover?" The full scope of Sarah's deception was becoming clear. Not only had she been taking credit for my financial support, but she had been contributing virtually nothing herself, while allowing our parents to believe she was single-handedly keeping them afloat. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice deadly calm. "For 3 years, I've been sending you $8,000 a month, nearly $300,000 total, to help Mom and Dad. You've been telling them that you're providing all that support, and your actual contribution has been what? Groceries?" Sarah was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks, her perfect image literally falling apart in front of her colleagues. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far." "But it did go this far," I said, standing up from the table. "It went so far that you built your entire identity as the good daughter on a lie. You let Mom and Dad think I was selfish and irresponsible while you were taking credit for my money and my generosity." I looked around the table at the shocked faces of my family and Sarah's colleagues. Well, the good news is that you won't have to worry about managing my contributions anymore. As of tonight, I'm done. You want to be the sole supporter of Mom and Dad? Congratulations. Now you actually can be. I pulled out my wallet and left enough cash to cover my portion of the dinner. Enjoy the rest of your celebration. As I walked toward the door, I heard my mother call out, "Marcus, wait!" But I didn't wait. I had spent 32 years waiting for my family to see me, to value me, to recognize that I was more than just the disappointing son who wasn't as successful as his sister. I was done waiting.
The next morning, I canceled the automatic transfer to Sarah's account. For the first time in 3 years, my bank balance at the end of the month would be $8,000 higher. It felt strange having that money back, like suddenly being able to breathe after holding your breath for years. The phone calls started that afternoon. First my mother, then my father, then Sarah herself. I let them all go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to talk, wasn't ready to hear their explanations, her apologies, or attempts to minimize what had happened. When I finally listened to the messages, they painted a clear picture of panic. My parents were shocked and confused, finally understanding the scope of what had been happening. Sarah's message was a rambling, tearful apology that somehow managed to make her the victim of the situation. "I never meant to hurt you," she sobbed into the phone. "I was just trying to help everyone. I thought it would be easier this way. Please call me back. Mom and Dad are asking questions I can't answer." But that wasn't my problem anymore. Sarah had wanted to be the hero, the generous daughter who single-handedly supported her aging parents. Now she could actually be that person, without my help. The weeks that followed were quiet, but liberating. I threw myself into my work, took on new clients, and for the first time in years, I had substantial extra money to spend on myself. I bought a new car, nothing flashy, just a reliable luxury sedan that I had been putting off purchasing. I took a vacation to Europe, something I had been dreaming about for years but couldn't afford while sending $8,000 a month to my family. It was during that European trip that I realized how much stress I had been carrying. Not just the financial stress of supporting my parents, but the emotional stress of being invisible, of having my contributions stolen and my character questioned. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The breakthrough came 2 months after the dinner. My father showed up at my office on a Thursday afternoon, looking older and more tired than I had ever seen him. "We need to talk," he said simply. I invited him into my office and closed the door. He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk and was quiet for a long moment. "Your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking about what happened at the dinner, about how we treated you, about how wrong we got everything." I waited, not sure what to say. "We confronted Sarah, really confronted her. We demanded to see bank statements, records, proof of where the money was actually coming from. Do you know what we found?" I shook my head. "For the past 3 years, every penny that's been keeping us afloat, paying for my heart medication, covering the mortgage when I couldn't work, helping with your mother's physical therapy, all of it came from you. All of it, Marcus. Sarah contributed maybe $2,000 total over 3 years, mostly in groceries and small purchases. The number hit me like a physical blow. I had suspected Sarah wasn't contributing much, but I hadn't realized it was that little. She let us believe she was sacrificing her own comfort to take care of us. She let us praise her generosity while we criticized you for not helping. She let us think you didn't care about us while you were literally keeping us alive." "Why?" I asked, the word coming out rougher than I had intended. My father was quiet for a long moment. "I think," he said slowly, "that Sarah has always needed to be the best at everything. The smartest, the most successful, the most loved. And when you started making serious money with your practice, when you were able to contribute more than she could, it threatened that image she had of herself. So she decided to steal credit for my money? It looks that way. He rubbed his face with his hands. Marcus, I am so sorry. We are so sorry. We failed you as parents. We let our pride in Sarah's achievements blind us to your own accomplishments, your own incredible generosity. I felt tears stinging my eyes. I just wanted to help. I never needed credit for it. I just wanted to take care of you and Mom. And you did, my father said firmly. You took better care of us than we deserved. Better care than we even knew. Marcus, without your support, we would have lost the house. I wouldn't have been able to afford my medication. Your mother's physical therapy would have stopped. You literally saved our lives. And we spent 3 years treating you like you didn't care. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 3 years of misunderstanding settling between us. What happens now? I asked. Well, now we figure out how to move forward, my father said. Your mother and I have been talking to Sarah. She's in a bad place right now. The partners at her firm found out about what happened at the dinner. Apparently one of her colleagues who was there started asking questions about her character and judgment. I felt a flicker of something, not quite satisfaction, but a sense that actions had consequences. She's agreed to get help, my father continued. Therapy. She knows what she did was wrong, and she claims she wants to make it right. But Marcus, we can't expect you to trust her again. We can't expect you to go back to the way things were. And the money? My father sighed deeply. We're going to have to make some serious changes. Downsize the house, maybe. Cut back on expenses. We can't expect you to carry the load you've been carrying, especially not after how we treated you. And we certainly can't trust Sarah to handle our finances anymore. Dad, I said quietly, I never minded helping. I minded being invisible. I minded being treated like I was selfish when I was giving you everything I could. He nodded, tears forming in his eyes. We see you now, son. We see you, and we're proud of you, and we're ashamed it took us so long. The reconciliation with my family was slow and sometimes painful. Sarah and I had several difficult conversations mediated by a family therapist, where she finally acknowledged the full extent of what she had done. She had been living beyond her means for years, using the praise and admiration from our parents as a substitute for actual financial contribution. I told myself I was protecting everyone, she said during one particularly difficult session. I thought if Mom and Dad knew you were the one supporting them, they'd feel guilty about accepting help from their unsuccessful son. I convinced myself I was doing everyone a favor. By lying? I asked. By managing the situation, she said, then caught herself. I know how that sounds. I know it was wrong. I needed them to see me as the good daughter. I needed to be the one they were proud of. They could have been proud of both of us, I said. There was room for both of us to be good children. The therapist helped us work through some of the deeper family dynamics that had led to this situation. My parents had always played favorites, had always compared us to each other instead of celebrating our individual strengths. Sarah had internalized the message that she needed to be perfect to be loved, while I had internalized the message that I would never be good enough no matter what I did. It took months, but slowly we began to rebuild our relationships on a foundation of honesty instead of deception. My parents downsized to a smaller house and learned to live within their means. I resumed helping them financially, but on a much smaller scale and with complete transparency about where the money was coming from.
Sarah eventually left her law firm. Whether she was pushed out or chose to leave was never entirely clear, and started a smaller practice focused on family law. She began contributing to our parents' care in ways that matched her actual income, and more importantly, she stopped taking credit for things she hadn't done. The most significant change was in how my family saw me. For years, I had accepted my family's assessment of me as the lesser child, the one who couldn't measure up to his sister. The revelation of Sarah's deception had forced me to confront the reality that their assessment had been based on lies. I was successful. I was generous. I was a good son and a good man. I didn't need my family's recognition to make those things true, but having it felt like finally being able to stand up straight after years of carrying a weight I hadn't realized was there. 1 year after the dinner that changed everything, we had another family celebration. This time, it was for my birthday. And this time, the praise and recognition were genuine. My parents talked about my business success, my generosity, my character. Sarah, humbled by her own fall from grace, listened quietly and added her own acknowledgement of the brothers she had wronged. It wasn't the family I had grown up with, but it was better. It was honest. It was real. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I truly belonged in it. As I sat at that table, surrounded by people who finally saw me for who I really was, I realized that sometimes the best thing that can happen to a family is for the truth to finally come out. Even when it's painful, even when it destroys the comfortable lies everyone has been living with, the truth creates space for something better to grow. I had spent years being the invisible son, the one whose contributions didn't count, whose character was questioned, whose worth was measured against an impossible standard. But I wasn't invisible anymore. I was seen, I was valued, and I was finally, truly home. What an incredible story about family manipulation and the power of standing up for yourself. Sometimes the people closest to us can be the ones who hurt us the most. What do you think about Marcus's decision to cut off the financial support? Was he right to expose Sarah's lies so publicly? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by this powerful story of family betrayal and redemption, please show your support by hitting that like button and be sure to subscribe for more incredible stories every day. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.